top at 3-0, or if Demons RAAAAHH can take this one home, every single team would be either 1-2 or 2-1, which would make for a very interesting week 4 through the end of the season going forward. But first, we're gonna be starting on Taiko Temple. Fudgy's gonna be on the melee goalie. Vaughn is gonna be on the Kai and trying to get aggressive, and you see right away on the kickoff him trying to do that.
Yeah, so we didn't get nearly enough time to talk about everything that has happened here, right? For one, Fudgy is playing the goalie role this time. Goomy is in the midfield slot, which I kind of figured when I saw the roster the first time this would be the iteration of the roster that made the most sense. And it seems like they're at least trying it out now after not finding as much success in week 1. Goomy's just one of these players that wants to be active all of the time with all of the emotes and everything. And I don't think goalie keeps him sane at this point. So, yeah, there's that.
Yeah, we saw him on the era a bit last week as Fudgy with a great hold in the corner, but not quite. Bells is able to find it. Fudgy, interestingly, going for the momentum boots as you already lose, finds a great slime right there. Going for the momentum boots here with the prime time start, I think given that Atlas just had his range nerfed, it can be really difficult to play this momentum boots, to feel like your primary really does anything unless they're right on top of you. So I'm interested in how that pick goes out. I tried the momentum boots on this patch for a while and it just felt so bad to me, but we'll see how confident Fudgy is able to play, because the more he pushes up, the more he will be able to try to get value out of that. As Bells goes for a KO here, the intervention comes in, so nothing yet, but Hungry Like Nephew trying to push in, trying to keep this pressure on with that eject button on Vaughn.
You know, the other thing with the momentum boots is that probably figure with as active of a midfield role as Goomy plays, right? He'll want to go back to the box. He'll want to go forward plenty as well. There's going to be plenty of extra flutterfly speed that the era provides to the Atlas, so maybe paired with that, especially in a coordinated environment, maybe actually will be beneficial and help Fudgy get a little more hyper involved towards the front lines. The other side of the battle, right? We haven't talked about Hungry Like Nephew, role swapped and rebranded this season, but it's the same 3 trio here that you all know and love. This time, just Vaughn making his return to the goalie spot, losing a barrier there, but Vaughn's been playing incredibly well over the course of the season so far in this goalie slot, and continues to lead his team to success. Power play opportunity here, finds the barrier. Now Bells, beautiful stall on the primary and sends it down the bottom side, mixing up both Goomy and Fudgy in the goal box.
Yeah, and as much as it's been talked about Vaughn, how much he's excelling in this goalie role, looking like the best goalie in the league early on, you already lose seamlessly transitioning to this midfield role as well. Has looked right at place as a NASL midfielder, despite never playing it, at least in NASL before. And already early on, you can see that Juno, which is such a strong pick on this map, just so much coverage over both lanes, across the drums, everything, making a lot happen here and trying to find the KO on Snake, pushing ahead here.
Yeah, I mean, especially on a primetime start here too, right? You get a little bit more extra agency as well. But now, once again, it is going to be Snake getting taken down. Fudgy will use the ultimate for himself and now has that energy burst, but won't be able to find the expanse to send the core away. Bell setting it through on the dribble. Goomy will collect, but you already lose, keeps the pressure up. Vaughn's joining the party here as well. Bells has to be a little bit careful and will dissipate, so it looks like a good dig out for Demons RAAAAHH for now. They haven't taken possession away from Hungry Like Nephew. Looks like they're trying to come back on somewhat of an offensive, but no, actually, defense is going to hold possession, finally change, but you already lose. Hops right in to steal the goal away. It's a 3-0 set to start things off. Even though things have looked promising, it's just the conversion factor that we've previously known the Sad Boys for. It's still coming true here for their first couple of matches in this season.
Yeah, it feels like they just can't set up Snake for these offensive opportunities, and like the swarm that Vaughn and You Already Lose have is just keeping them on offense the entire time. The team player here going on to Vaughn will help keep that up, and they're going to get the hot shot as well. So Goomy had a chance to deny it there, but really not a strong pick on Era. Instead, going to opt for the speed to hope to stay on offense that way. The cooldowns for Atlas is going to help a lot, but it means, both of the brawlers not really getting exactly what they want, and especially Snake here being stuck with Deadeye is going to be tough for Demons RAAAAHH.
Definitely tough as Snake, who's been the target of multiple KOs up to this point, that has resulted multiple power plays and the momentum ultimately shifting towards Hungry Like Nephew. But now Snake with a very nice punish, able to find both barriers in a swift play. Be looking to try to send this one back the other direction, but in the interim, of course, the Sad Boys will pick up possession of the core, and Goomy just doesn't quite have the same agency now once again. Maelstrom actually comes through, but this time is going to be Bells taken off of the pitch. Vaughn, nice little pass down to Yuri Luz, looking for the second barrier, but can't find it yet. Just trying to work on the penalty kill here. Vaughn can't find the clear with the top spin well placed.
Yeah, not quite enough speed to get up there in time. It struck just a little bit too early, so had the evade. Doesn't go down there, and they're both able to get that point, and Goomy up to 66 stacks of his own. It looked like they were finally able to set Snake up for offense, and he immediately got both barriers so that they can continue to keep possession a little more. Fudgy and Goomy hold down the defense and be able to get the core to Snake in open space like they have right here, but the strike wars are played very well by Hungry Like Nephew. Looking for a KO on Bells, but he's able to get the orb and stay safe for now.
Bells and Snake have been playing League of Legends in a solo lane right now. They're just continuing to go after one another. And now, boom, KO lands with the Maddening Descent. Beautiful poke through with that core flip from Snake. Gigablast comes out, but it sends the core in a weird direction. Goomy collects. Potential opportunity here. Maelstrom comes through, is going to sweep through. Yuri Luz actually going to be able to prevent a lot of momentum happening there as Bells will come back online and has the energy burst of his own here. Will be forced to use it on the defensive. Looking for a quick transition. Can't find it there, and now beautiful crooked leverage from Snake. Finds the gap there. Vaughn maybe a little bit too eager on the offensive side here for Hungry Like Nephew. Now it's set point for Demons RAAAAHHH.
Yeah, Snake just taking advantage of every single opportunity. Goomy going for the stacks, it gave Yuri Luz the hot shot, but that hasn't really been a problem so far, and it's allowed Goomy to just stay in the play constantly, speeding himself up, having that high base speed now with the fully stacked pancakes, and not being pressured very much with the KOs because of all that speed to get away. So Goomy, like he wants to do in the goalie role as well, but here on midfield, just able to have so much presence, and Snake, as you see once again, getting the second barrier, taking advantage of every opportunity that Goomy is giving him.
Certainly there, and what we've come to know Snake for, right? Being able to just always get the job done. One of the reasons why he's one of the most winningest players when it comes to S tiers, but now beautiful core flip from Vaughn on the offensive after the blazing pace. Just takes care of business himself on the front lines, and will put at least one goal away in set 2 for Hungry Like Nephew.
Yeah, as much as I'm talking about Goomy wanting to be involved in the play so much, Vaughn, that is really how they were able to win that first set, was Vaughn staying up, keeping it on that side of the pitch. And, he pushes in once again here with the eject button, is able to do it. Flip does get used, does get burned, and not finding anything yet, but they have a strong offense to start that point. If they can get back to that again, they might be able to steal this set back, but Goomy has that flip. Snake now in prime position, but just getting pushed back over and over again from this aggression from Vaughn.
And that's the largest thing, right, where in the differences, especially early on with not a lot of extra speed for the Atlas, it's going to be difficult for Fudgy to get involved, right, and keep things tighter in terms of possessions for Demons RAAAAHHH. One of the reasons why you often see the Atlas players go for the projectile range rather than the speed, but of course saying in this case that perhaps the speed will eventually come online. If Demons RAAAAHHH can pick up this set win here, send us to at least 4 sets. That gives us decent more time to scale, but of course have to fend off the Sad Boys now. Snake can't quite find the conversion here, and the core speed is quickly picking up off of the drums. You already lose. Now looking for Bells on the corner. Gonna get interrupted by the center bass drum. Beautiful clear away there. Good heads up from Fudgy, noting that Bells' primary was just barely going to collect the core, but now KO comes through against Snake. The offensive pressure here for the Demons is going to dissipate. Oni's blade in the corner. There's the projection. Comes out, but off the center bass drum. Right to you, already lose. And we're on set point for both teams.
And every single time that Demons is not able to score before overtime, it's going to get very scary for them. Very scary for this Atlas as well. As the team player and the hot shot on Juno both just absolutely thrive in overtime. And the fact that they have both of those so early on in this game, whichever way this set goes, that's going to be scary, but Snake not trying to let this one get to overtime as he gets both barriers very quickly here and forces the flip out from Vaughn.
Good heads up there. Now Goomy looking for Snake. Can't quite find the way to get in. Now Vaughn retreats back on the blazing pace. will be able to send this one away. Bell's looking for a fancy play, but the core flip sends it away. Snake looking to topspin down to the bottom corner. Now the Blobos come out here. Really want to hold on to this second barrier if you're Fudgy and the Demons, but also want to try to be involved in the offensive side here. Expanse now looking for Bells. Have to be careful. There's You Already Lose, punishing once again. Just the smallest of openings. And the barrier falls, but it's a power play here for Demons RAAAAHHH. Snake, crooked leverage, looking to do something. And now actually beautiful find with that angle off of the post. We'll send it through, and we have an equal game.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting that strike. They were scared about the flip from Goomy, who had all that speed, was running in, and it's just Snake who ends up finding it. Gets a well-deserved MVP of that set, and you're going to have a few size options here. The 1-2 punch as well, which the Juno is going to be watching. They will go for the big fish, and, you know, the fact that we've had one spark show up in each of these drafts does mean this Atlas might be able to scale. So instead, Vaughn is going to deny away that spark of agility. But the Monumentalist going on Era here is going to make those pushes whenever they're able to keep that offense consistently very, very scary. But I think both teams getting a lot of what they'd like, aside from maybe the Atlas here. But that Monumentalist from Goomy, the dash range from Bells, and the 1-2 punch from You Already Lose are going to be very scary teams, very scary picks for both teams here.
I really like that spark denial from Vaughn, because I think, right, the goal for Fudgy, collect as much speed as possible. Taking a spark in the last draft was hoping to get the spark of agility back, which, by the way, was one of the starting awakenings, but all 6 ended up taking that prime time. Back in the pool, shows up there, and good heads up and denial away. If it was any other spark, honestly, Vaughn probably leaves it up, but spark of agility is not the one you want to give away to the opposing goalie in this instance. Both barriers still online for the moment. Bell's trying to leap in with that explosive entrance. Vaughn getting involved here as well in the blazing pace. Won't be able to retreat with the eject button, but sticks around for a little while longer. And you can see just how tight some of these formations can be for the Sad Boys. Beautiful pass on down to Bells, finds the barrier, and now looking for a little bit more. Almost close to finding it there. The Blobos are down here now from You Already Lose, looking for the pass back up to Bells. These two are just looking to keep the core amongst themselves, probably waiting for an energy burst to come online in just a moment. Bells sweeps in forward in front of Snake, and now here's Bione's Blade, forcing that core flip out of Snake. There's You Already Loses energy burst. Can't find the core there either. Maelstrom out, sweeping back. Vaughn saves the core flip for now. Will likely have to use it, but no, actually gets KO'd to the top spin, and Goomy is just going to play it patient and use the panic for a moment in order to get the goal in.
Hungry Like Nephew kept such a consistent offense for that point all the way through overtime, but as soon as it fell apart, it's so difficult for that Kai to get a hold of Snake, who's on that Kazan, and that time was able to find a KO on the goal line on Vaughn, who had a full flip to his name, didn't want to burn it, but ended up standing just a little bit too close, and that'll mean it gets taken away. It's so easy for Demons to get pushed back on defense for so long like they did in that last point, but the fact they were able to hold gave them that opportunity to Snake, and they're going to have to do it again this point as Bells almost finds it with the dash. Both barriers open for Hungry Like Nephew once again, but Goomy is setting up a play with this NATO, does a lot of damage, pushes everyone back, and once again, you see the same kind of thing, Snake pushing into that corner, and so much pressure. Once again, 2 flips used, and almost KO'd on both of them, so the goal does get open, and we'll see if Bells can find a score here.
Almost found a way to take that one out, and the second energy burst gets committed out of Vaughn to keep this core out. Meanwhile, Vaughn really up on the front lines here. Core flip, top of the box. Expanse is used to send that one away. Vaughn finally going to get the chance to retreat. Immediately goes back on the offensive blazing pace. Here's Bells. Almost finds it with the eye rush, but can't quite. Goomy with the Maelstrom interrupting things for just a moment, but Bells still has plenty of room and plenty of dashes to work with here. Looking for the core again, but it gets sent away by the projection. And Goomy just can't quite get to the pitch, the other side of the pitch in time. Looking again here, Gigablast is out. Here are some of the resources. Can't quite find the same corner play, and the Maelstrom comes out just a little bit late. Maybe this time it's Bells on the offensive. You Already Lose. Sends a Blobo up to that corner. Can't find it just yet. Core flip now from Vaughn. Gets denied by the Expanse once again. Snake waiting for Goomy to get involved, but the core is going to go behind him. Oni's Blade is out. Just waiting for more resources, but actually the Maelstrom is going to take out You Already Lose. Snake now with a potential opportunity, but Bells looking the other way. Core flip used out of Fudgy Waffles, and the poke comes through. Snake finally finds the goal. Back and forth and back and forth. We're really on a pendulum swing here, Weston.
Yeah, both points completely back and forth, and Goomy right there. Vaughn was just waiting to cut the pass, waiting, and Goomy just let it roll all the way up. Great patience there. So they're able to once again turn around a point where they were disadvantaged early. I think, you know, it's interesting because Fudgy is on the Atlas. That's what you'd think would be able to hold down all the way till this overtime, but it ends up being the other way around as Snake, great use of the flip here. Now it's Demons early on in the point, and Snake with a million strikes right in Vaughn's face. A 3-0 set for Demons RAAAAHHH and completely turning around this game from what we saw in that first set.
Now Snake, pick of the litter here, going to have hopefully something worthwhile. Heavy Impact online, Super Surge online, Adrenaline Rush maybe even if they're looking to play more of the KO game. But plenty to do here, and of course Demons RAAAAHHH have to be feeling themselves at this point.
Yeah, really not a lot for Snake here, and that's why he's going to wait. He does go for the Super Surge, which really interestingly enough, he has a Deadeye. So every time he dashes, that is going to be potentially a lot of damage for anyone who ends up getting caught by the dash. A Spark of Leadership, which is not what it used to be, but is a second Spark for Fudgy, will mean that he does have more cooldowns. That'll be a strong pick. And Heavy Impact for Goomy as well. Going to mean that Era is going to have primary all the time. Going to be very scary as Snake, you can see here, starting to do a lot of damage. And especially with Fudgy pushing all the way up, you know, it's Atlas, but he can still do a lot of damage in that corner. They're starting to pressure that as a win condition a little bit here as well.
How about this little corner play, though? Beautiful use of the Juno ultimate and all the Blobos that come down. Now, looking for a corner play off of the drum. Can't quite find the bounce. Snake gets in the way. Bells will take it himself for a moment. Here's the energy burst. Again, top of the box. Can't quite put it away, but mixes up enough to finally send it through. Multiple strikes there. The second that you think that it's not quite going to go in, Bells is still there. Still gets the job done.
Great little self-dribble by Bells there. And the twin drive on Vaughn here means he's going to be able to dash in even more than he already had been. So really just trying to accentuate that aggressive playstyle that won them that first set, that got them a few points in that second set, and trying to get back to that. But Snake, with all of this range, every single time that they're rotating the core back, is going to be trying to cut off those passes. Finding a lot of pressure in the corner here and uses a flip, not finding anything. So all hungry like Nephew early on at this point as Bells almost dies to the Expanse, but doesn't quite there, but does manage to get the goal open.
The consistency of the pressure here. Bells continuing to dive forward into Fudgy, continuing to be a nuisance. Fudgy just does not have the room to breathe at all. Doesn't really need it all of the time, admittedly, as an Atlas, but it certainly doesn't make it feel so good. Vaughn, beautiful core flip, keeping both barriers alive, but here comes the Maelstrom looking for both. Snake was in position, finds one, but it gets sent away from finding the second. Now rushing in, had to be careful there with the Expanse, but actually able to come through. Giga Blast keeps the play alive here. You already lose, looking to walk the core in, but no, the Maelstrom will be in the way there as well, and Bells has to retreat back to the blue side of the pitch here, bullied by Snake. Finds the barrier all of a sudden as Vaughn was attempting to get involved. And the core will find the post, sent back towards the midfield. Goomy now looking to the corner. Vaughn's back in time. Here is the crooked leverage, but Vaughn's got the barrage that time around. Maelstrom looking for Vaughn. Can't quite find him. Decent amount of harassment here, but you don't see a lot of collapsing on the play right now for Demons RAAAAHHH with just how fast the core is moving. Don't quite have everything in their toolkit to get back the other way. Here's the Oni's Blade, though. Doesn't matter whether or not you're shrunk. A good ultimate from Fudgy will keep him alive for now with an extra energy burst. Has that. Will use it here. Sends it up to the top side. Vaughn doesn't able to find the strike. Looking for another play here. Another connection. One more play is all it needs, but it doesn't matter. Bells immediately on the other side of the map puts it through.
And the adjustment you're seeing, I think he was trying to do it earlier as well, but especially in that point, what I noticed, Vaughn with that twin drive is just every single time that Fudgy is able to get the core away, pushing up before Snake can even get the core in open space, because he knows as a Kai, there's no way he's going to be able to consistently defend that open space, but instead just running up with that speed, with that twin drive every time, making sure he can't even get those opportunities. But this time, off kickoff, Snake was able to get it, and they're able to get both barriers early on.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They've committed 2 energy bursts for both barriers and the Maelstrom here. If they don't find this goal, could be problematic. Looking again. Now for the core. Snake trying to bully You Already Lose away. can't quite find the core in time, and now Vaughn again looking to push the issue, as you mentioned. Goal barrier out. Now you already lose, jumping in, core flip on the goal line and sends it through. We're heading to a set 5.
Yeah, trading dominant sets for each team. That time it was Hungry Like Nephew who were able to 3-0. So really, we've seen dominance in a lot of these sets from both teams. But now as we get to the end, it's just who can find this last one. The third spark threat for Fudgy here is going to be a little bit interesting. Not exactly the strength that you want, but just getting more cooldowns would be scary. Bell's going for the extra special, already has the specialized training as well, is going to be important. And then the bulk up going on to Goomy is interesting. I thought you maybe could have waited and got built different, or that bulk up going to Snake, but instead going to take it away. Snake going to get some more survivability, and that spark of strength denied mostly for you already lose, but also going to mean more damage and more core speed for himself. So I don't think too lopsided of a draft here either way. And it's just going to be who can play the playstyle they've been playing this whole time to the best. As Bells almost gets KO'd there, but barely able to live and get the orb for himself.
Here's the thing, though. It almost doesn't even matter what stagger Bells is at as long as he's alive. Okay, now he isn't. Sent around by the drums. As long as he's alive, he can make a play on the other net if you're not careful. The amount of dashes that Zentaro has. Now, though, KO going back the other direction. Power play opportunity here for Hungry Like Nephew. Not able to quite do the trick, but they are keeping possession here. Vaughn very far forward, but now, oh no, loses the core. Snake dashes in, slips forward. Not the kind of thing you're used to seeing out of a player like Vaughn, but nonetheless, leaves an opening, and anyone at this level, Weston, is good enough to punish that.
Yeah, and the barrage just pixels away from catching that, but it gets all the way past Vaughn and no chance for anyone to get back on that one. And now early on in this point, the length of that first point means Goomy is getting fairly close to the full stacks on stacks where he's really able to be all over the map. I don't think too many flashy plays out of Goomy, but what he's doing to set Snake up here has been really important. Oh no, nobody uses the core flip there. It gets past both of them, and Goomy uses it a little bit too late, so that's going to be an early double barrier here. Although you already lose, might get KO'd, but instead it's Bells using the flip in the corner just before his midfielder goes down, and we're all tied up in this 5th set.
Beautiful play from Bells again, dashing in and then immediately finding the core flip before Fudgy can even react with his own core flip, mind you. But now early barrier falls here. Demons RAAAAHHH on the back foot. Here's the Maelstrom sweeping through. Another perfect setup from Goomy. Looking towards Snake again. Can't quite find him. Energy Burst. Online here for Fudgy. There's an expanse used, and the KO is found. That's Bells going down, and the goal barrier is found here as well. Goomy playing patient. Vaughn finds the opening between the two of them. Kills the penalty for now and steps forward a little bit. Leaving You Already Lose, his former goalie, back on that side. Power play will dissipate. And now, maybe it's Bells' turn, dashing in with the Oni's blade, looking for it, but Fudgy's able to send it away. Now, here's Snake in the slip again. Now, maddening descent all over the pitch just as much. Crooked leverage, but Vaughn's got the Giga Blast to keep it out. Very tense. Trading cooldown for cooldown here. Now, the projection almost came through to score the goal, but actually it's Snake. Have to be careful. Wherever this Kazan could be is where the threat is, and it's Demons RAAAAHHH now that are on game point.
Yeah, and it was such a great kickoff by Hungry Like Nephew, but these Maelstroms from Goomy are able to just, when they're timed right, completely flip the field around on its head. Didn't even have to there, but instead going to set it up offensively, try to find the play. Does get almost everyone on the map with that primary, but nothing found yet. Bells trying to find some pressure, and Snake looking for a KO on Vaughn, not quite finding it. Getting him a bit staggered as he pushes up here. Tries to shut down the offense from Demons RAAAAHHH, but they're doing a great job of just keeping the core here. An unfortunate angle from Bells means their last barrier goes down just 1 point away for Demons RAAAAHHH, and it goes into the corner. Snake once again finds the angle to beat Vaughn, and it's a comeback win. You know, they lost that first set in such dominant fashion, and Demons RAAAAHHH able to get map 1 here on Taiko Temple.
Telling you, Snake finds a way to get things done. If you thought Bells was dashing all over the map, how about the level of coverage that Snake was having in both secondaries of the Kazan, both the slip and the maddening descent, able to be on effectively both the top and bottom sides of the map limiting clear angles just as much for Vaughn. And the second that he comes in on that slip and pops up, it's almost, again, once we get later into these stages, it's just that much more difficult to find the proper reaction to send it back the other way. While everyone was getting involved for Hungry Like Nephew on the offensive side, it ends up being just a number of quick and easy plays that Snake can make once the Kazan has a size awakening and a dash awakening that really make the difference.
Yeah, and you can see on this that reflected on the scoreboard, 9+0 for Snake. They didn't get a single goal in any of the sets that they lost. You know, Goomy and Fudgy didn't find themselves a way to get a goal. It was just all Snake all the time. And that's what you want to do when you lock in an Era. You know, an Era Atlas team comp is really to prop that Kazan up. And we weren't saying his name a lot, but Goomy doing so much that game to not only set up his own... is not only to set up his own brawler, but the fact that you could have, you know, the Juno having the least amount of redirects on the side of Hungry Like Nephew, I think really shows how well Goomy was navigating that midfield, setting up his own team, and just a really well-played game, playing well to their own team comp from Demons RAAAAHH.
Now, let's be clear. I think Goomy got plenty of props in that last game. The number of times, right, that you mentioned, he's able to set up that maelstrom that allows for a complete transformation of how the point is played in the matter of seconds, lining things up with the wall incredibly well. And a lot of times, Snake was actually able to play a little bit more patiently and wait for Goomy to get there, which sometimes you're wondering with the Era overall, right? You're like, okay, well, maybe she'll actually be there in time. She doesn't quite have the same level of presence if she doesn't have the speed online there. But in actuality, right, able to get there in time, or at least pair up and be a little bit more patient there at the very end.
Yeah, and in the first draft, I was really worried about the hot shot going on to Juno and it being a threat during overtime. And you saw it definitely pay dividends for Hungry Like Nephew there. I mean, it was a set 5 game. But getting that stack so early on for Goomy, I think just really allowed him to do exactly what they wanted him to do in that game, which was be all over the map, set his team up. And so the way that first draft went, I think really shaped the entire game. We had really strong builds, I think, for both midfielders. And Snake, a lot of the time, at least early on, I mean, he took Deadeye in the first draft. You know, the set that he did MVP in the middle, he had to wait a few picks and take Super Surge, which is, you know, not exactly what you traditionally think of as wanting on Kazan. But even with, you know, not exactly having the pick of the litter early on in that game, still able to really take over and score all 9 goals for him there.
I also think, right, that winning that second set was huge for Demons RAAAAHH. If they hadn't have won that, things could have been a lot different, right, in the way that things end up panning out, with the snowball continuing to roll for Hungry Like Nephew. But stopping it in its tracks earlier on and equalizing the score there in set 2, also incredibly important. Now, we head on to Demons, or no, sorry, this is Hungry Like Nephew's map pick. That was Demons' map pick. Are now heading off to Demon Dais, which, if you had told me back in 20, like a year ago, I don't actually know when it was, a couple seasons ago, like season 3 or so, when we were going back and forth between Sad Boys and Demons RAAAAHH. If you had told me that Sad Boys would pick Demon Dais into Demons RAAAAHH, I would have called you crazy. But here we are. Times have changed.
Yeah, I've seen Vaughn talk a lot about how comfortable they are on this map, and especially, you know, goalieing. I think so many picks are viable here, and Rasmus is maybe something that I would look out for as a goalie pick for Hungry Like Nephew. But, you know, Finney has been dominating the meta. We saw Vaughn on the Vice last week as well, really turn it up. So I think so many options here, and it makes for a difficult drafting phase to plan for if you're Demons RAAAAHH, where it's really going to have to come down to the awakenings and what you prioritize and what you ban. But yeah, I'm not too surprised, even though it's, you know, historically more of a Demons RAAAAHH map pick, to see Hungry Like Nephew go for it, because I think with their role swaps, this is something that will play well to their play style. It'll allow Vaughn to be involved in the offense as much as possible, like they were trying to make happen last game. And I'm really interested to see what kind of awakenings we get and how this draft plays out, because I think both teams could go in a lot of different directions.
You know, the other thing too, right, is when you're thinking about the role swaps, when you're talking about even Demons RAAAHH's role swap, they're not really in their current form and what we expect here today, they're not really going to lean towards that damage as much, right? You're probably leaning more towards, Fudgy typically when he plays goalie is more on the melee goalies in general, right? No surprise to see him on the Atlas in the last game. Obviously played a lot of Mako in previous seasons. So it's not a lot of a surprise to me to watch that actually come to pass. Especially if they're really looking towards like Goomy playing something like the Era or a speed character, especially because that's generally probably also what Goomy's more comfortable with, transitioning into that midfield role as well, rather than trying to play closer towards the damage. Luckily, maybe for Demons RAAAAHH, no real incredibly game warping damage awakenings here at first. Might of the Colossus obviously is a starter awakening here that is probably going to be for whatever Bells wants. But even still, right? With a hot shot here, they have potential to do a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, it makes Juno a strong pick. It makes Vice a strong pick. And that might, I talked about the Rasmus maybe being a priority. That could be something interesting as well. And we were talking a little bit before the broadcast. I think, what you said about what Goomy wants to play, what Fudgy wants to play, it really makes sense that this is the roster that they've landed on in these roles. Specifically, I think Goomy in the goal box is easier to replace than, Kainub in the midfield. It's easier to pair a goalie with Goomy in the midfield and how he wants to play than it is to put a midfielder next to Goomy who's really going to understand how aggressive he wants to be and be able to adapt to that constantly. So the fact that they've ended up in this way makes a lot of sense.
Hey, shocking development here. Maybe the 3-time, 4-time, whatever time NASL MVP is more difficult to replace. I'm just going to throw that out there as some food for thought. We're seeing the bans come through, and the first pick is X for Demons RAAAAHH. Interesting choice, I think, from Stake. Don't really see X that often right now in the meta. And also, you mentioned the Finny come through. Interesting to kind of see that banned away for Hungry Like Nephew.
Yeah, been a very high pick rate. I don't know about today, but just throughout the season has been seen a lot of presence, and I think especially the last couple weeks, people have been warming up to Finny being a very strong pick. I'd be interested to see potentially Rune, and there it is.
There it is.
Rune showing up for possibly You Already Lose, possibly Vaughn. But I think Goomy would have been looking at that pick if they had let it through. So smart to deny it away there. I thought they might have prioritized it in that first pick slot, Demons RAAAAHH, but instead going for the X. I think with the Might of the Colossus start and just on this map in general, X can be so oppressive. So it does make sense to go for that, but it means the Rune is going to slip out of their hands here. And instead, Rune and Vice, two great users of Hot Shot, and two that can really set up some scary plays here for Hungry Like Nephew.
Okay, so maybe they are trying to lean closer towards the damage, right? You imagine that probably Vice going over to Fudgy, right? Or at least one of these two is definitely Fudgy's goalie pick. So we'll see what ends up coming through there.
Wrong way around. This is going to be Vaughn on the Vice, I think. And,
wrong way around. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Vaughn on the Vice, I would assume, and You Already Lose on the Rune here. And then it's going to be Goomy going back to the air again, trying to set up Snake.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Oh, wait. Everyone, look out. It's an X-Era game, which means that the comp can't come online till set 3. So the first 2 sets don't matter. They should, Hungry Like Nephew should win, right? Surely that's how this is going to work.
It went that way the last game, at least for the first set. But we talked about the fact they were able to get set number 2 was very important. So I think it might be kind of the same story here. It'll be hard for Demons RAAAAHH to get online here early on, and they do go with the Rasmus goalie, which I think is such a strong pick on this map, especially. I haven't seen Fudgy on it before, but I'm sure comfortable on it, and going to be a very strong start here for it. We'll see Bells go with the Juliet here. Also, I think X and Julie traditionally, in a vacuum, are probably the 2 brawlers that you prioritize the most on this map. They are what ends up getting picked here. But I really like this Rune Vice from Hungry Like Nephew. I think it's going to create a lot of pressure and make it really difficult for Demons RAAAAHH, especially early on this game, to try to, stay on offense for any extended amount of time.
What feels like, especially at a hot shot start, right? With those 2 being able to just sit there, have as much as they want to send the core, all Bells is going to have to do is sit in the enemy goal box and then just put the core away when he gets the chance to, right? And you imagine that the number of opportunities that'll happen is actually quite significant, given with those, the center music waves. What are they actually called?
Sound
What are those
waves?
things called?
I'm not sure.
They are just sound waves.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe there's a technical term. Who knows? Those things. You all know what I'm talking about on this map. With those actually setting the core closer, probably towards Bells. I imagine this is going to work pretty well, and they don't necessarily need as tight, control perhaps for a lot of the typical things that Hungry Like Nephew has been doing, at least in the last one, right? They kept a very close triangle, very tight possession of the core, but instead, we're seeing this come through the other way.
Yeah, and I think what they'll be trying to do this time instead is just, get the goal behind get the ball behind the barrier of Demons RAAAAHH, and then just really keep it back there with the Vice secondaries, with the rune pillars, and try to keep that pressure on as much as possible. Because every time you go back into that corner, you try to play defense, they're just going to be doing more and more damage, and I think their comp is going to be able to do that. And yeah, I think it's possible here that the Era X is going to take a little bit too long to get online, and especially those banishes, I think, can really put away those big plays that you try to set up when you're on that pick. We talked in the last game about those Maelstroms being such a good way to turn it around, but I think the rune banishes can do the same kind of thing and can shut down those plays from Demons RAAAAHH.
Yeah, certainly. So we'll see where this comes through. I don't really know what we're okay. Finally, loading into the actual game character select here. Demon Dais, of course, is where we are heading, and definitely going to be a fun one to see how this one comes together. Remember, folks, of course, Demons RAAAAHH actually the ones in the lead here, now heading to their own map pick. We'll see whether or not the X Era is going to have time to get online, or if the double hotshot midfield and goalie are going to be able to get this core enough times up to Bells to get the job done in 3 quick sets. Of course, any sets the Demons RAAAAHH win off the rip here are going to be incredibly important. And so we'll see whether or not they'll be able to do just that.
Yeah, and Hungry Like Nephew going for the role swap here. I think this map and the comp that they picked kind of means, as much as possible, you're able to take advantage of the fact that you have, 2 players who have both played midfield and played goalie extensively here. I think you're going to kind of see them blend those roles at times. Early on, it's a barrier early for Demons RAAAAHH, but Goomy taking so much damage early on, and we'll see if Hungry Like Nephew is able to take advantage of that early on. But so far in the core control, it's all Demons RAAAAHH.
All Demons RAAAAHH here up first, and if they strike first again, could mean very large things, and actually will be able to do just that. A Snake is able to punch it through. Goomy keeps his energy burst here online, already worked his way up to a full energy burst. And early signs of momentum here for Demons RAAAAHH.
Yeah, not only that, but level 2 on all members of Demons RAAAAHH, while Bells and You Already Lose are going to have to try to build up toward having those, last abilities. Bells just not having the size here to be able to find that first barrier. And, Vaughn and You Already Lose taking a lot of damage. This Era, as much as the beams are about the size, able to do a lot of damage there and kind of push this rune out of the play. The Maelstrom there almost finding it, and Snake getting set up. The core just going back and forth in the middle here, and Hungry Like Nephew, all 3 members low on Stagger here.
This is not the start that we really expected coming out from this set of strikers on the pitch, but nonetheless, it's the start we're getting. Bells continually gets knocked away, and Snake able to find both the KO and scoring the goal in true X fashion. It's 2 goals up early here for Demons RAAAAHH.
And a big XP lead as well for Snake, who's going to be looking at that first pick in the draft. If Hungry Like Nephew can't turn this around, a great flip from Fudgy nullifies the ultimate from Vice, which is not able to find anything. Bells now finally has that level 2 and is able to get those barriers so consistently with that Julie ultimate. That's really what you pick this pick for on this map. But, if Snake is able to find this damage like he has been in these first 3 points, it's not going to matter what Bells has. But once again, for the first time, rather, this game, they're able to get the goal open.
Vaughn in on the Thunderstruck. Of course, not there in time. Now looking with the power cord here, and can't quite get the job done. Looking for the energy burst here, and actually gets immediately denied. Vaughn able to send one away with the supernova, loses the gold barrier in the process, but a beautiful anomaly there from You Already Lose puts the core away and interrupts the death touch coming in from Fudgy. So here we go. Finally, some signs of life here for Hungry Like Nephew.
Yeah, and something I didn't notice until now, we didn't talk about in these first couple points, but it's Van Braces for Snake here. So going to be behind on the speed, but has the early size advantage. So hoping that that is enough to stay in the play consistently, and like these other members aren't going to be able to outrun him. And so far, he's right on that assessment because he's been all over this game. Has the first barrier, did a lot of damage to all three members, does whiff the flip, but hitting all three with the bell ringer. And it just seems like it's impossible for them to stay alive. Snake just able to tank that entire Vice ultimate, get the second barrier here, and once again hitting all three with every single bell ringer. And it's Goomy who sets up the play for himself, able to find it with the beam. And it's an early set for Demons RAAAAHHH with this scaling comp.
Never mind, XX time in set 1. Didn't think that was going to be what ends up happening here, but is ultimately what comes through nonetheless. And we'll look to see what ends up actually happening here. Extra special taken first from Fudgy. Probably not ideal, right, to see Fudgy online at first here, but even still, that Monumentalist gets picked up here for Goomy on this era, and specialized training for the X. I mean, you're walking away from that actually liking a lot what you got.
Yeah, the XP kind of swung around in that last point where it ended up being that Snake picked last, but I think still able to get something great here. Goomy getting the Monumentalist for the second game in a row. It might be, you know, I think it's another map where that pick is extremely strong and going to be able to set up a lot of plays here. The early banish from You Already Lose finds some damage onto Goomy, but I think they just don't have the damage, don't have the pressure early on to really be able to force that consistently. But maybe if Vaughn is able to get involved in more plays like he did there, they're able to find the damage, and they're starting to get that here.
Starting to get it, and as that damage comes online, that's going to be the other key part of this composition overall, right? We were expecting just a hot shot to come through, but paired with a little bit of extra damage as well, those core speeds going to continue to skyrocket, and then hopefully Bells will be able to just sit there and wait for the core to find him. Shadow swap here comes through from Yuri Lose. Here is another bull rush here, and there is the energy burst to seal the KO for Snake. Bells on the power play, can't quite collect the core in the fiery flurry, and now looking the other way. Beautiful clear there from Vaughn. Barely finds the post angle to get that one away, as You Already Lose is going to come back online. Fudgy tries to get the core away, and now Snake looking to bully You Already Lose again, but it doesn't matter. The anomaly sends the core flying again down to the bottom corner.
Yeah, the pressure from Vaughn having the core flip there meant that the power play really wasn't anything for Demons RAAAAHH, and they were just so scared of Vaughn finding a goal angle that they weren't able to set much up. Snake early on gets staggered and now KO'd by the flip from Vaughn. And, you know, we're seeing Hungry Like Nephew with the damage be able to completely turn around what we saw in the first point. Goomy going back to the goalie role for a second there. Some great clears and able to turn this around for now. And they're able, Snake now back on the pitch, finding a KO, and they still have their goal barriers open.
Dash punch from Snake takes care of business, and now looking for the goal actually itself. We'll be able to get the pass up here. Beautiful stun away from Vaughn. Prevents that from happening for just a little bit longer, and a goal that looked almost for sure to be in. Supernova out here from Vaughn will secure the second barrier here for Hungry Like Nephew. Now You Already Lose looking up for Bells. Fiery flurry. Bells on the dribble. Collects the core himself. Beautiful mechanical play there from Bells to keep possession of the core. Almost virtually nothing Fudgy could have done in that whole interaction. And now Hungry Like Nephew are on the precipice of equalizing the set score once again.
Yeah, just like the last game, just swinging back and forth where we can't ever really tell who's in control of the game. Beautifully done by Bells on that last point to find the conversion. I think the extra special, more than other maps, is very valuable for Fudgy here, both for damage and to just be able to disrupt those plays. Had one in the middle of that, but Bells just had enough cooldowns left that it did not matter what he did. Was able to find that And once again here, you see just the script being flipped from that last set where it feels like Hungry Like Nephew, even when they're pushed back like this, are a lot more in control of these points. Snake not able to dominate like he was in the last game, like he was in the first set. And Vaughn now pushing in with this core flip, trying to find some pressure and trying to find this set for Hungry Like Nephew.
Both looking for it here. Vanish comes out. Here's Vaughn. Energy Burst is there. Snake uses his own, but won't find the core itself. Bells is going to use his Energy Burst just to try to get away from Snake for a moment. Will be able to for a moment longer. Actually waits out the X Maximus, but now it's going to get knocked around by that Bewitching Beam. Overtime now. Bells has to be careful. Retreat all the way back for the orb on his own side of the map. You already lose. Maybe looking for a fancy play here. There's the Supernova out of Vaughn as well. Even still, everything the Sad Boys has thrown towards the goal hasn't gone in quite yet. Fiery Flurry is out. Bells finds the KO opportunity against Fudgy, and the core comes up to him to put away.
And all that set up by Vaughn, teleporting in there, making it so Fudgy had to strike right when Bells was setting up for the KO. So even though it didn't find the goal right away, it meant that he was able to get that dash punch in the goal, and it was easy pickings after that. So another 3-0 set this time. It's Hungry Like Nephew, and we'll see what they find here. I'm surprised that the bulk up doesn't go because I think it's such a strong pick on this map. But the big fish does mean you'll be getting power as well. It's another way to get the stagger, and it means that they get bulk up as well going on to the Vice. So a lot of exactly what Hungry Like Nephew wants here, I think. Stagger on both of their members to stay alive and more power. The Adrenaline Rush going to the Rune is not exactly who you would want it on, and Castellas for Goomy is going to be able to get some more value, but I think that's a really strong draft for Hungry Like Nephew.
You actually commented, thinking about the bulk up for Bells up first. Actually, with Might of the Colossus earlier, Big Fish is probably the right play. Picking up a little bit of extra power there, going to make KOs a little bit easier, and in fact, just does one there, but now it's You Already Lose, also swept off of the pitch by Goomy's Maelstrom. Patiently waiting, strikes up to the top side, waits on Snake to be back online. Vaughn looks for the clear, but can't quite find it that time. Was looking for a very cheeky angle back up to that post. Couldn't quite put it away. Goes right back over to the hands of Goomy. And a well-played point there from Demons RAAAAHHH.
Yeah, flipping the script back once again. And you see on that kickoff, Fudgy's able to set up Snake with the Death Touch there. We'll see if that's, kind of a consistent plan from them, as some great clears here is able to keep the barrier on. Snake, even with this Van Brace, has found himself getting KO'd. Does right there. The Van Brace just doesn't matter when it's Bells who has all of that power, 132 to his name, and able to set up that play. Now gets both barriers on the power play, and every time they're able to find those KOs, it's just such easy execution of this offense when you have something like the Vice you saw right there, able to teleport in, use the flip, and nothing that Demons RAAAAHHH could do.
Beautifully done there to find the KO up first. Again, I think maybe it's the wrong comp we were thinking that's actually the scaling comp here, because that extra little bit of damage from Bells seems to have done a decent chunk of the trick, and now Vaughn getting involved here as well with the Supernova. Bells gets sent away for a moment, and the Banish comes through. Core's going to get away from Bells here, and now Snake going to go in pursuit of the opposing Brawler. Will find the KO, and will be able to alleviate some of that pressure on the Demons RAAAAHHH side of the pitch. Power Core comes through. Beautiful Shadow Swap here. You're loose, looking for himself with an anomaly, but can't find it just there. Vaughn, beautiful angle, getting it around the barrier. Just throw up those Sad Boys emotes in the chat for that angle. Might have gone for it again there, but no, actually not that time, and Snake will punish with an Energy Burst. Here's Supernova, sends Snake away once more, and the Maelstrom comes in just a little bit late. Actually going to be able to find the barrier all the same. Fudgy just does Death Touch in time, and now a KO comes through. You Already Lose this time, picks it up, has the Adrenaline Rush speed here as well to look for the other side of the pitch, but Goomy has speed to match, able to snag that core away from Bells. Again, another Shadow Swap. You Already Lose looking for himself again, but almost sends it in a catastrophic way to the other side of the pitch. Fiery Flurry slowly starts to collapse on this one, but it doesn't matter. Vaughn's there before Bells can get there, and he'll put it away.
It's the spread from the power core that's able to get that one. And it feels like Rune and Vice specifically are able to stall out any power plays that Demons RAAAAHH get out very effectively, and also just score themselves so much more effectively. Vice is able to set herself up, have the teammates set her up, and able to find the goals very consistently when they get the power plays. And this time, they don't even need a power play. Only 12 seconds needed for Bells there. Does it all himself, finds both barriers, and with the flip, able to get the goal. And it's Hungry Like Nephew roaring back after that second set that we had. And now up 2-1 here as we enter the draft.
Maybe just needed a little bit of time to warm up or something of the sort here on this particular composition. But no, things are going quite well now for Hungry Like Nephew. Up first here is the team player from Vaughn, which is going to further increase core speeds, which is really what this team is striving for.
Yeah, and Snake deciding to go for the Spark of Strength did get the agility last time, so it's a pick that makes sense, but it means there's two sizes that fall down. They're not able to deny both of them, and it means that Bells is going to have even more power, 146 here, and you can see the size there just overwhelming. I think it's going to be really difficult for Fudgy to try to deal with this. Got some size himself, but still, it's just all that power. And Snake, as much as these Van Braces help him stay alive, he's just not in the plays here to try to set up. As they get the bandage, try to set up a KO, not finding it yet, but still just a lot of control, I think, from Hungry Like Nephew, navigating these situations and not letting Snake, do as much damage, set up as much for himself like they did in that first set.
But I will say, if there's a world where Snake can find a target, I think he'll be quite successful in doing so. 168 base power, let alone whatever's popped in the X Maximus when that comes through, like right about now. Now is 190 with that X Maximus online. Could be quite efficient, but they're not able to do a lot of work there. We'll eventually find the barrier, and now opportunity here, potential double. Banish comes through, Maelstrom sweeps over the pitch. Goomy is back in time. Here's the energy burst from Vaughn, looking for a cheeky little pay, trying to keep the possession here now for Hungry Like Nephew, but the KO comes through against Snake. You're to lose, tries to keep the play alive here. Fudgy going to pause for just a moment with that anomaly well placed. Goomy looking for the penalty kill again, but no, gets tripped up by his own Maelstrom. And the core will find the back of the net thanks to Bells' pressure.
Yeah, and if that was, Hungry Like Nephew would set up that Maelstrom, that would have been a beautiful play, but instead it was just a very unfortunate sequence of events. And you saw the value of that team player early on, what Vaughn was able to set up in that play. Once they get to the, both goals are open, I think their team comp is just so much better at converting here. And for Snake and for Goomy, I think it's really, early on that they have to win these points, find a power play, and be able to score in that way.
But there's the barriers once again, and you already know that You Already Lose is collapsing on the core, with Vaughn joining the party as well with that Thunderstruck. We're on game point now for Hungry Like Nephew.
Yeah, and, as they took a while to get into the game, we kept talking about how it was going to be Demons RAAAAHHH who scaled. But I think these teams, both of these games have shown how hard it is to analyze this matchup with such, just good players on both teams. They're able to just turn around any kind of situation. It's them early on, once again at this point doing what they have these last few sets. The flip there sends it all the way to the corner, pass to himself by Vaughn. And this second map taken in decisive fashion in these last three sets from Hungry Like Nephew.
Weston, analysis be darned anytime these two teams try to find the pitch together, and once more, they're just going to come together and play some Omega Strikers, and we all get to reap the rewards of whatever crazy thing is going to end up happening when these two end up colliding. Very similar to the last one there, where everyone from the Sad Boys gets hyper involved. How about Vaughn? 4 goals, 3 assists, as the goalie Vice continues to put in the work on this particular striker and has played such a monumental role for this team, even in that goalie role stuff.
Yeah, every time that Vaughn has been able to get his hands on the Vice this season, it has been a show. And especially on Demon Dais, you just saw the power of that pick that time, able to set up so many goals, especially, when they got those power plays, when they got to overtime, when you had the team player, just doing absolutely everything in that last point, especially impressive the way they were able to set that up here. Our third map we're going to go to, the leftover map here, will be Clarion Chamber. So, much different than we saw on what we saw on Demon Dais. But I'm interested to see how the comps, how the drafts here develop further as we get to this third game, because really we saw just completely different things. Those first two games, even set to set, the games look completely different, and now, we're going to another map, which is, not like what we saw in game 2 at least.
Throw all your expectations out the window. I don't know what to expect whatsoever. We're just going to sit back and enjoy some Omega Strikers, because that's typically what we try to do here on the North American Strikers League broadcast. Although, if I say that now, knowing that my house is not the one in jeopardy, shout out to you, Mr. Fool, for betting your house on this match, because I don't know that any of us would have. So, 0-7 to you, my friend. Start is on the board here, and Adrenaline Rush Explosive Entrance are the starter awakenings here, Weston. I don't even know. What do we even make of that?
Yeah, I really don't either, because I think Adrenaline Rush, normally you would think that's all Demons RAAAAHH, but with this role swap, with how Hungry Like Nephew Sad Boys has evolved here, yeah, I'm really interested in what they go for. I think both Vaughn and You Already Lose have so many different picks at their disposal. Goomy, we've seen him on air these first two games to varying results, but I think that's the kind of playstyle he wants to play. It's being all over the map and setting up Snake. And I'm really interested in what they go for here. If I was either of these teams, I would not know where to go with the pick ban. This isn't necessarily a great start for Finny, at least as far as other than the Adrenaline Rush, if your team is able to set up KOs. But what we've seen from Hungry Like Nephew throughout the season has been that if they're blue side, they're typically trying to pick the Finny first. If they don't want it, they're banning it. But with this start, I'm interested if they still try to prioritize that, what has been such a high presence pick so far in this season.
I will say, it hasn't felt like there's been a lot of urgency out of Demons RAAAAHH to pick it up. It might be different, of course, with Fresh in the mix, but given by the fact that Fresh is not the goalie and it is Fudgy, I have my doubts on whether or not that's actually going to be prioritized at all. And with what Goomy has seemed to want to play, I imagine Goomy's going to want to play a midfielder that's got a little bit more mobility than the Finny overall, right? So it feels difficult here to think that Demons RAAAAHH are going to prioritize it at all, which is actually one of the reasons why I was kind of surprised to see that ban come through from them in the last one. But nonetheless, of course, we'll see what ends up happening here. With a damage focused start, you'd have to imagine that is something on the table that at least Vaughn is considering loading into this one.
Yeah, it could be the Finny, it could be the Vice once again, which we just talked about how strong of a pick it's been, and that's really going to kind of warp your entire play style. If you're Fudgy here and you're wanting to go back to the melee, would be a great start for Mako. So I'm interested in if Hungry Like Nephew look to ban that, because if you're Fudgy and you pick Atlas here, you're not picking it for the awakening start, you're just picking it because it's Atlas. So if you're Hungry Like Nephew, you can force them into that might be something you want to do. Instead, they ban the Atlas here, which I think means that they're really gonna be going for KOs and not wanting to have that celestial intervention on the board. And it means that they're okay with the Mako going, which I think, especially with the way that she was nerfed recently and how slow she is when she's holding some of her abilities, you really put a target on your back if you do lock in that Mako.
You are right to talk about the Finny so much, as that is picked up in the first slot here for Hungry Like Nephew. And of course, makes sense in the overall premise with the Atlas band away. So no surprise really to see the Vice band away, because if you're Demons RAAAAHH, you probably don't want to give that one to Vaughn either. But nonetheless here, that Finny is going to be a pick that Vaughn's going to be more than happy with, and being able to pair it here with really whatever the other two play, as long as it's some kind of striker that can contribute to damage, which, as it turns out, is every striker. So I think Hungry Like Nephew have got to be feeling pretty happy with how this start ended up coming through. We'll see whether or not they can execute here, because that's the other thing as well. We imagine, actually, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Where's this Juno going? It could be Fudgy.
It could be. I would expect that it's. I don't think an era would be great here necessarily.
Oh,
So I
no.
would think that it's going to be Goomy, and you might see the Mako, even though it's going to be a little scary. But I think the fact that Hungry Like Nephew picked Rasmus here makes you really scared to pick Mako. I think it's a really good matchup for the Rasmus, and it's something that they probably anticipated because they're very smart and they think about these drafts. So they went with the Rasmus specifically. I was expecting maybe a Zentaro, which a Zentaro is very weak into Mako. I think it's very Mako favored, and Rasmus is very Rasmus favored into Mako. So they anticipated that. They set up a good brawler to goalie matchup this time. And they do lock in the Mako, but it's going to be a difficult job for Fudgy to defend here, I think, especially against that Rasmus.
We'll see how this one comes together. But of course, with that explosive entrance, maybe you're hoping that there's a little bit of extra speed overall on the pitch. And you're hoping for that. But of course, as you mentioned, right, Erasmus probably going to get the best of that one. And Bells on the pick in particular, able to have multiple options in terms of going through. So we'll see where this one comes through here overall. And I'm distracted by members of Hungry Like Nephew typing in Twitch chat. Go play your game, folks. Get out of here. Load in.
We did see last week Snake on the Julie. I believe it was on this map in that third game. I might be wrong. But he was at least on Julie, I know, in the third game against EKC when they were really kind of able to turn that series around after we saw, the Zentaro goalie. And it was a very fun series. But Snake on that Juliet was able to do such a good job of staying alive, and I believe had Adrenaline Rush in that game as well, and was just able to completely take over. So, as we saw in chat, the fact that Finny is such a priority pick in this meta goes to the blue side first pick does mean that Snake is able to be on that Juliet, and I think that's something to be scary. Something to be scared about if you are Hungry Like Nephew. But I think that I really like their team comp in this game. The fact that they were able to set up their brawler to succeed, picking the Rasmus before you even saw the Mako here. And Fudgy, interestingly enough, like we saw in that first game, going for the momentum boots here on the melee pick. So we'll see what he's able to do with this.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up coming through. Again, have to imagine maybe a little bit of extra speed is going to be an ounce beneficial here. A little more unconventional, I suppose, perhaps for most Mako players, but Fudgy going to take this one all the same, and Goomy actually going to be able to leap in there, find the second goal barrier. Perhaps this time Demons RAAAAHHH will be able to swing momentum and keep momentum here early on, though. With just as contested as this match has been, I'd expect our last one to be no different. Bell's beautiful little trickery play here, keeping control of the core, but can't quite find the barrier even still. We'll be looking again for it now. Leaping in here. Once again, Goomy now on the back lines. Lose going to be able to shut off these side lanes here in the Casino Cloak streets. Death Touch pulled up here from Bells, looking for the pendulum swing, but a beautiful energy burst actually is going to be what sends this one away. Bells again looking for the goal, but really Hungry Like Nephew had decent possession of everything there. Things seemed largely in their control, even if it was interrupted multiple times over. And finally, Bells will find the whiplash before through.
Yeah, and Snake, they're not able to get on offense enough for Snake to even be level 2 that time. I think the fact that Goomy is starting with some dash range here means, I feel like I've said it 30 times, but, he wants to be all over the map, and on Era that meant speed, but on Juno it's going to mean this dash range early on is going to be a resource for them. But it means, you're not going to have those Adrenaline Rush procs on everybody, like you would have on the midfielder of Hungry Like Nephew. But, as much as he's able to get around, find these plays with the dash, the Finny has so much speed as well that is just able to match that without having to use a cooldown like Goomy is here. And it just means that they've been able to set up such consistent offense in that last point, and you're seeing it once again, even as Bells is pushed out of the play, they're still able to keep the pressure on.
Double banish comes through here. Bells with a breakaway opportunity. Can't find the pendulum swing to put it away. And 2 core flips available here for Demons RAAAAHHH. Snake forced to burn his, trying to stay alive. You already lose. We burn his as well, but won't be able to find the goal. Now Vaughn's turn. Bells will collect here with the whiplash, sends it away. And Fudgy will hold on to his energy burst for another day. Now Snake potentially looking for a KO here against one of the forwards on Hungry Like Nephew. Can't quite get the job done. Goomy, beautiful defense here. Keeping perhaps an ounce of pressure alive. Death Touch, though, pulls back to Bells. And that one gets out of control real quick in overtime. Bell's able to find a unique angle by just letting it in himself, not even striking it after the Death Touch.
And that's the Mako nerf right there, just like pixels away for Fudgy from being able to save that because he was holding the secondary just a little bit out of position, and you're just so slow even, you know, as quick as he tried to turn it off, just not able to get in position that time. And you see the nerfs immediately cost them, you know, the save right there. So Goomy now getting bounced all around the map, able to hold on to his flip right now, going to have to try to find an opportunity to use it as Fudgy is patient, sets up the play. Nobody able to get any Adrenaline Rush procs yet, even though in that last point we saw 3 people staggered at one time. And that's meant that it's really the core control comp that's able to take over. And right now, you know, that's Hungry Like Nephew. But right now it's Goomy with the ultimate setting up a lot of slimes, and Vaughn just not able to match all of the strikes that the Juno had at her disposal there.
Yeah, very difficult to send that one in particular away. Goomy with a great setup, gets the job done, and now Anomaly actually forces the core, keeps the core on the blue side of the pitch here. Maybe another opportunity here for the Demons. There is Great and Snare Drums. Traps you already lose there for a moment. The Banish comes through here as well, taking Snake down to low stagger, and he'll be forced to retreat. Bell's with an opportunity here. Looks for the double, can't find it, only gets one. Looking for a second here. Actually, just able to find it there, and Fudgy unable to release the secondary quick enough. Send it away. Now triple take comes through. Bell's now able to look for it here. Strike wars galore. Fudgy going to hold on in this instance. Bell still has a decent number of things at his disposal here. Snake finally gets involved. There's a triple take. Debuff onto Snake. Looking again. Here is the Banish. Out of view, already lose. Looking for the pass up. No, actually decides to take it himself after it was interrupted. Hungry Like Nephew take the first set here in our third map.
Yeah, and Snake's going with the Pumwars this game, much like the Vambrace of last game, means he just doesn't have the speed that everyone else on the field does in those, you know, contested plays when they're all striking back and forth. And so they really desperately need to find damage, need to find ways to get KOs so that that Pummelers and that Adrenaline Rush of Snake can be online. And in that first set, they were not able to find a single one, not able to set up any of those. And it just meant the more stable comp, the more stable setup of Hungry Like Nephew was able to get that. He's able to get the Spark of Strength in the last slot here with only one other Spark showing up, so that will be something valuable for them. I think the Mako, especially when you go Momentum Boots, being able to get that Missile Prop and have that range to be able to affect the field is also very valuable. But Fight or Flight on Rune, you know, one of the best users of it, and, you know, really the only thing that character lacks sometimes is the movement speed. I think that's going to be able to set up a lot for You Already Lose to really be able to control the midfield even more than he already has in that first set.
Yeah, Fight or Flight, known to be an incredibly weak awakening. Often has a average pick slot of about 2 or 3 in most cases. At least that was the case last season. I expect it to be much the same this season. It's one of the most popular awakenings picked up by our players. Bell's great death touch here, holding it back away from Snake, even in that Adrenaline Rush. And in the power play here, Blavo comes through. Goomy looks to steal it away from his own brawler. Will be trying to get the job done, and Snake just going to thread the needle to put the core away.
Yeah, and every time this entire series, when we talk about how the game state has been, just like that, Snake finds a KO. And every time he's able to do that, he completely turns it around. So we'll see if that was, you know, just kind of a lapse there early on from Hungry Like Nephew, or if really that Spark of Strength on its own was the pressure that Snake needed to be able to start really making use of this pick. But Fudgy as well, pushing up and having that missile propulsion, is able to set up a lot with the cage right there. And it's You Already Lose who's staggered here, has the Fight or Flight to try to get away, but just being pushed back, and Snake looking for that KO to get those Pum Wars and that Adrenaline Rush online. Not going to need it this time though, just finds the strike.
Finds the strike to put it away here. Snake getting the job done for Demons RAAAAHHH again. You know, Snake feels like one of the players of Demons RAAAAHH that historically has been outshined by us talking about Kainoob and Goomy, although in Goomy's case, maybe whatever Goomy did wrong. But Snake so successfully performs the job as the brawler to an insanely high degree that it's just like, it's almost a given, right? In terms of his level of performance and the way that he's able to have control in the opponent's goal box. Now, of course, when he's KO'd, he can't quite do that, and power play opportunity comes through here. Goomy looking the other way, but actually Bells finds a barrier on the other side. Force speed is picked up, won't find a strike back. And now the Blobos are out here from Goomy. Snake looking for the KO versus Bells, can't quite find it there. Yuri lose to himself on the shadow swap, not quite. Goomy interrupts the strike from Bells. And now Fudgy able to find it that time with a little bit of extra speed. Now overtime again here on the bounce house. Got to be careful with where things are going to go, especially as it keeps building up speed against those anomalies or those Blobos. Snake will find the dash to send it into the goal barrier to lose. Energy burst here. Goomy able to find the core away, and that's what I'm talking about. Goes flying to the other side of the pitch. Vaughn doesn't have the time to react, and all of a sudden, Demons RAAAAHHH. Hey, Weston, 3 games in a row. We're tied at 1 set apiece.
And 3 games in a row, the second set has been a 3-0 by the team you just lost. So, like, how the hell do you analyze this series and not sound like an idiot? But, you know, they turn it around there. A crazy point for that last one, and it means that Goomy's going to be rewarded with the hot shot in the first pick. No chance at all to deny it. Snake is going to deny that extra special going on to the rune, which I think makes sense, but especially with not much damage or any of the sparks showing up for him here. Orb Replicator in the second game in a row going to Fudgy Waffles. I think really, you know, nobody getting anything too crazy. You already lose with that Deadeye, and Goomy with that hot shot are both, you know, picks that can create core speed, especially as we hit overtime, so that's something to look at. But I think neither brawler was able to scale too much, although Bells here is starting to get a size and a power build here, up to 122 power himself.
I don't know, the more I think about that last draft from Hungry Like Nephew, the more I see a lot more core speed out of them and a lot more damage in general that can rack up those KOs on an adrenaline rush start for both Vaughn and Yuri Lose. Things could get out of hand here pretty quickly for Demons RAAAAHHH if they're not careful. Really have to make sure that they're dodging everything or just putting the goals away early, as Goomy nearly does with an energy burst there. Bells pulls it back with a death touch, and now the expanse comes through to KO Snake. It's a power play opportunity. Fudgy looking for the perfect pick from downtown, but can't find it. The ensnare drums come out as Fudgy continues to walk forward to the midfield line, trying to hold the line here. Can't quite find it yet. Goomy leaps in on the Blobo bounce. The perfect pitch goes wide again. Anomaly out, and overtime comes through. Bells might be next on the chopping block here. Could get KO'd next. Fudgy continues to interrupt things as Goomy's left back in the goalie box for now. Back up to the anomaly. Blobo himself now leaping in, looking for the opposite side of the pitch. Snake off of the center expanse. Looking again, but can't find it. Now KO comes through. It's a power play for Demons RAAAAHHH. Snake looking to dribble off of it himself. Actually procced it, looking for the pass back. But no, actually it is denied. Death touch comes out here. Bells looks to the opposite corner, but Fudgy's there in time. And You're to Lose comes back alive. Now Snake with a shot. That's when sent away by Vaughn's energy burst, but now we won't have that. Here's another proc of that expanse coming through. Here's Snake flying forward. There's the fiery flurry, and the KO comes through with the energy burst. Perfect pitch is connected, and finally Snake will put it through.
Yeah, that missile prop doing so much for Fudgy here. You know, you saw a few times stepping up into that play, but also when he's all the way back, that time able to set Snake up. It was a great save from Vaughn on the goal line, but he had to step so far back and just set up the KO opportunity for Snake, who was able to get that adrenaline rush for the second time in the point. Early on here, you know, he had to use that flip, so it doesn't have a lot of energy, finding himself low. But I think all season we've seen Snake do such a good job of staying alive, barely alive here, and able to get the goal open. It feels like they really have to find that KO to be able to turn this point around, but they're just, you know, pushing up ahead and not finding it. But back and forth we go, and a great expanse means both goals are open.
Double banish from You Already Lose is what opens the goal gates, but oh no! Goomy sends it right through both Vaughn and You Already Lose. They can't find the strike button fast enough, and it's set point again here. Poor Demons RAAAAHHH. Again, you never know what is going to happen when these two teams meet each other. Things might look like they're going to go one way, and they fly back the opposite direction, points back and forth, sets taken both sides, a blowout sets taken both sides, and KOs galore now as Bells finds one against Goomy. That's going to be a huge KO here, allows Vaughn to move up incredibly far forward. Anomaly comes out here and now looks for it again, but no, Fudgy can't find the clear in time, and it hits the barrier. Open goal gates on the side of the pitch here for Hungry Like Nephew. Vaughn looking to try to defend this one. All three energy bursts almost online here for Hungry Like Nephew. As I say that, Bells uses his to find the KO power play opportunity, but it doesn't matter. The Shadow Swap comes through when Yuri Lose will use his energy burst to put the core away.
Yeah, and that variant especially, I think, lending itself really well to the Rune and to the Finny, who can just set off, close off those sides. I think this variant also going to be one that, those pillars and those Finny secondaries can really do a lot. But, before that, it was 5 points in a row for Demons RAAAAHH, and it's a lot of damage early on as Snake looms here with the Adrenaline Rush, with the Pummelers. But it is Bells who's able to get the center here while Snake looks for that KO on You Already Lose.
Goomy, though, playing goalie at the midfield line, slowly starting to lose ground to Bells here. Now the banish comes through against Goomy, but the goal barrier falls on the other side of the pitch. You already lose now, looking to collapse in the corner here with Bells. Fudgy's able to send it away with the drum and bass, at least at first, but Bells is back, looking for even more. Not able to find it here this time, and You Already Lose might be next. Looking to actually just save this one for Bells, and actually going to be contested. Snake is the one that picks it up, looking for Bells now in the KO, but such large in size right now, he'll be able to send it to the top corner, and it is Demons RAAAAHH now one set away from making this league incredibly interesting.
Yeah, I think Vaughn didn't think that Snake was in range for the strike war there, but the size from the middle, he was just barely able to get that strike in time and didn't react with the core flip. So that's 2 sets in a row for Demons RAAAAHH. And like you said, if they could find this one, every single team in the league will be 2-1 or 1-2. No undefeated teams in week 3 is a possibility here. But as Hungry Like Nephew tries to stave that off, they're able to get Glass Cannon on Finny, going to allow her to get involved in the play more often, hopefully push up more. The heavy impact on Rasmus can be a lot of cooldowns and a little bit more damage. The aerial is not going to do much for the Rasmus. So Snake, getting the prize fighter here means, every single KO is going to be even more costly than it already has been, as he almost finds the second barrier, but not quite. Nobody getting anything too crazy in the draft other than that, but the prize fighter are going to be very scary here for Hungry Like Nephew to try to deal with.
You Already Lose comes out with a double banish, but it's not really going to be a lot here. It looks like the goal barrier is not going to fall. Meanwhile, other side of the pitch, Snake is there. Goomy now looking to try to just collect here. Will be able to find Snake, who sends it up to the top corner once again, preserving his energy burst there. Going to be critical in the future here, especially with Goomy being close to his own. 2 goals away now for Demons RAAAAHH.
Yeah, so much energy being used trying to not give the prize fighter stacks here. And it just means that they're still able to run away with this point as Goomy does use his. Only finds one, not quite the double, going for the safe angle that time. But Fudgy just, really comfortable, it feels like, and just they're not able to keep the consistent pressure on him because they're so afraid of Snake in there looking for the KOs. This time just looking for the barrier and able to find it with the core flip now, looking into the corner, and it's the punch that's able to find it after the card, just 1 point away for Demons RAAAAHH.
Match point now for the Demons, a roster that has been doubted quite a bit, especially with their performance in the first 2 weeks here. But they've been able to turn things around against their rivals on the other side of the pitch. One more goal is going to be what it takes now to make things an already interesting season even more mathematically interesting. There it is. Snake opens up the goal barriers here. Loves to play with this expanse. Oh no. Fudgy can't quite find the tangential angle to put it away. Here's an anomaly now. Looking to keep this core in the corner is Hungry Like Nephew. Goomy leaps forward, trying to get some momentum towards this core. It looks like just Hungry Like Nephew trying to maintain possession here on the bottom side. There's the expanse, goes out again. Goomy now looking to maintain possession himself, but all of those creations come online. Bells finds the goal gate. Here's the big finish. Vaughn tries to get involved. Can't quite do just that yet. Energy Burst online here. There's the banish, but it's caught in the Energy Burst from Fudgy Waffles. It doesn't banish the core. Sends back to the other side of the pitch. Back and forth. Death Touch comes through here from Bells, but it's not enough. Finally looking for it again, but Goomy's there in time. And the Pendulum Swing doesn't connect to find the stun in time before the strike comes out. Another opportunity here, but oh my goodness, the Corvus goes flying past everybody again. And Demons RAAAAHHH have knocked off their rivals again. We have no undefeated teams in the North American Strikers League and no winless teams after 3 weeks of play.
Yeah, what a game, what a series we had there. And, you talked about how maybe there were some doubters of this roster. I think, any doubt was just because they were playing the wrong roles. They looked so much better here than the first week than at the beginning, with Goomy here in the midfield with Fudgy playing goalie. I think both did an incredible job that game. And Snake, really not finding that many KOs, but it was just that pressure and a fantastic, conversion rate, especially on the barriers, that was able to get them that game. And I think you saw, the versatility in the draft from Demons RAAAAHHH was really important. Goomy on a few different picks, and this time a much more dominant play style. As we look at the scoreboard here in the redirects, just absolutely dominant in that last game.
Continues to be an absolute menace there. Goomy playing such a critical role, as if it was doubted all this time, right? With Kainu being there for a while. But no, Demons RAAAAHHH have been able to put it together, and it's Hungry Like Nephew team. There were talks about potentially looking like this team maybe goes the distance or something of the sort. Vaughn being maybe the best goalie. Well, we've got questions now because suddenly the league has gotten a lot more interesting. Everyone, as you mentioned, Weston, now is either 2-1 or 1-2. There are no teams that have all 3 wins. There are no teams that have all 3 losses. Every team has strengths, every team has weaknesses, and everyone can win or lose to one another. This is going to be one heck of an interesting season.
Yeah, and especially as we hit our break week here, as nobody feeling too good, like they're alone at the top, like we could have had if Hungry Like Nephew took this game home. Nobody, searching for their first win. So as the map pool changes, as teams have a week to scrim and plan what they're going to do next, just as close as it could possibly be. So a very interesting spot we found ourselves in, and especially with these 2 top historic teams, a really interesting series where you saw early on Hungry Like Nephew look dominant, like we said, but we saw there this new, correct role roster from Demons RAAAAHHH was able to take them down in pretty convincing fashion in that 3rd map.
As close of a league as we can possibly get at this point, being 3 weeks in, quite literally on paper. The era of dominance is completely over for all of those beta players, and now we'll be able to go forward from here. Folks, don't go anywhere, of course. As you're accustomed to, there'll be a pre-show or a post-show, on the other side of this break before we take our 2-week break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the post show for the North American Strikers League. I'm here with three of the winners from today: Bumbo Bonanza's Liari, Return to Forum's Hungry Boy, and EKC's NXZD. How are you doing? I guess let's start with Liari. First match of the day, and you're continuing some winning here, taking down Wee's Little Beast 2-0. Do you have any thoughts on the series? Was it closer than it looked, or was it a smooth road for the Buns?
Hard series to remember. There's a reason that B rhymes with free. I think they kind of had a faulty draft in game two, it felt like, and they didn't really play it how they should have for the draft they did. And then Autumn City, we're just really good on that map. I do think that there's an argument it could have gotten hard after one of the sets. If they won, I think it was set two and got team player, but I don't know. I didn't really feel that worried, and the draft went literally like 1-to-1 exactly how I predicted it. The maps and the character select in both games, except for Zack Smack picking Dubu. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, fun series, good prep, happy with how we played.
Yeah, and next up, NXCD. You took it over to Bozo Bunch in quite the cinematic 2-0. It was a little
Yeah,
crazy, especially
it's
near the end.
always yeah. We've been trying to practice for this matchup for a while now. After like last week, we kind of decided it was time to like kind of dial down and kind of like figure out what we're doing for our matchups now. So we did a lot of scrimming and a lot of like I guess like planning going into this that we really didn't do in like the first 2 weeks, I would say. And it definitely helped us like a lot, especially in like the draft. Like the draft went very well for us. Kind of we felt more like in control of what we were doing, and so it was kind of just from there. It was just up to us to just play well.
And to tell me a little bit more about, I guess, that final point, because it kind of looked like you identified a win condition immediately, right? When you saw that Dropletto had
Yeah,
no energy.
yeah. Of course, like as after he flipped or after he scored a flip and stuff, it's really easy to just target him, especially with Imi. You have so much range. As my friend calls it, Bluetooth Juliet. So you just spam all of your util on him on call on kickoff, and he really was their win condition. And every time you got that adrenaline rush online, it was really hard to kind of shut him down. So being able to shut him down on kickoff was like definitely the best chance we had at kind of putting an end to that. So it was definitely like a big sigh of relief when he died on that final point.
Yeah, and Hungry Boy, looking at that wheel a little bit here, you're looking like
Yeah, the wheel's chosen.
yeah,
No
you're
is
look,
no.
you're looking like quite a NASL midfielder now, and 2-0 in very dominant fashion over the Sundubu Strikers. How'd you do it?
I low key had to lock in because my cousin showed up to pick some stuff up, so I had to try to just win quick. So kind of went into a little flow state, and also shapeshifting was on the other team. Cannot be going 0-9 in the season, especially dropping a game to that guy. So
Yeah, and related to going 0-9 and rather the lack thereof, if you take a look at the standings here, every single team has a win and no team has 0 losses here. And since it's so even, since the season is looking so close, I'm going to do a little bit of something before the first break of the season. And it's, I guess it's pick 2 playoff teams. So I'm going to start with you, Hungry Boy. Which 2 teams, other than your team, of course, do you think will make playoffs?
uh, let's go with hug number one. Where my hug at? Um, and then I'd like to see PPL. I'd like to see them as a underdog playoff team, especially in their first season returning NASL team technically. So those are my two.
All right, NXZD, any predictions?
I'm definitely gonna say Bozo Bunch for one of my picks. And I mean, I'm sure I'll see Showtime there too. Of course, they've been playing pretty well recently, especially on today.
All right, Liari, you've had some time to charge up the chatting. Which 2 teams do you think you're going to see in the playoffs?
Hmm. I felt like the winner of Bozo versus EKC would definitely make playoffs in the end. I still think Bozo probably will. But I think EKC winning shows that they'll probably be there. I really want to beat them, so I hope they do. I hope they are. And besides that, I mean, Showtime's like a boring, easy pick. I think PPL is gonna do it though. I believe in them. I think they crashed out week 1, mental boomed giga hard, hated the patch, hated everyone who made it, said some unique things to me, Vaughn and Wallaby. But their heads are back on. They're playing the game. They think they figured out the patch, and I believe in them. Oh my god, my mic fell.
All right, and
But
with,
I'm good now.
yeah, and with that, I guess that's it for the post show. So any shout outs, starting with you, Liari.
Oh, shout outs. I do this every week. I really appreciate everyone on the Bun server and everyone else who wishes us support. And then also shout out my team because honestly, like I didn't play much this week. I played 40 hours last week and wanted to take a break. But my team played really well and we did really well today and it was a good week.
All right, Hungry Boy, what about you? Any
Shout out,
shout outs?
shout out, Average Alex. Give him back what he gave to me. Got the shout out last week. Got to return the favor. Love that guy.
All right, and NXCD, final shout outs.
Yeah, definitely shout outs to my teammate this week. My teammates, I think we communicated really well like during the games today, and I'm very proud of them. And then shout out to all my friends and all the people that watch, and they're really cool. And also shout out to Drop Leto for playing really well on Centauro today. I was very proud of him. I was very, very proud of Drop Leto.
All right, and with
And
that,
that's pretty much it.
oh, okay, yeah. With that, that's the post show. Thanks for everyone for watching, and make sure to tune in tomorrow for another 10-hour NASA Nasty stream. See you, everyone.